The Anchorage Municipality Platting Board Authority will now come to order October 7th, 2015 at 6:30. May we have roll call?
Mr. Abel?
Here.
Mr. Fuller?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Present.
Mr. Edmondson?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Ms. Enix? Here. Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mr. Cross?
Here.
Thank you.
Are there any agenda changes? Seeing none, we have a action summary. May I have a motion to approve the action summary from Wednesday, August 5th? Trevor Edmondson moves and Dan Young seconds. Is there anyone wishing to discuss the action summary? Any opposition? Seeing none, the action summary is approved. Next, we have minutes from August 5th, 2015. May I have a motion to approve? Trevor Edmondson has moved and Dan Young has seconded. Are there any corrections to be made? Is there any opposition to approval of the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Next is disclosures. Does anyone have any disclosures to be made on the board? Seeing no one with any disclosures, we'll move on to informational items. There are 5 informational items that have been prepared for us: August 3rd, August 10, August 17, September 17, and September 21st. That takes us now to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Dan Young moves and Trevor Edmondson seconds. And the motion is to approve the case S12205 Tudor Corner subdivision. Does anyone wish to discuss this matter? Seeing no request to discuss, the matter is approved. That takes us to new matters. The Platting Board meets each month on the first and third Wednesday, except holidays, as regular meetings. If the Platting Board fails to complete its agenda for its regular meeting, the Board will carry over the remainder of the agenda to the following meeting. The procedure by which the public may speak at the Platting Board at this meeting is after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, then I will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. The petitioner gets to go first. They have 10 minutes. They are allowed to reserve part of their time for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, PTAs, community councils will get 5 minutes, and last will be individuals, and they have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless a board member asks a question. So at this point, we will ask for staff presentation of case S12160. A1 Cross subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for subdivision of 3 lots into 1 lot with a variance from AMC 2180-010, dedication of streets. The petitioner has purchased the 3 lots and wishes to subdivide those lots into 1 lot in anticipation of expanding their canine care, boarding, and retail facility. The petition site is located on the east side of Brooks Loop, west of Cross Drive and east of the Glen Highway in Eagle River. The property is zoned B3 General Business District. Owl Cross subdivision was originally platted in 1960, consisting of lots that were 50 feet wide by 150 feet deep. And at that time, 30 feet of right-of-way was dedicated for Brooks Loop. The Eagle River Traffic Mitigation Design Study Report offers two options for addressing the traffic concerns at the Cross Drive and Brooks Loop intersection. Option one restricts the traffic in one direction for Brooks Loop and Cross Drive. That's actually shown in Figure 15 on page 23 of your staff packet. Option two creates cul-de-sacs for both Brooks Loop and Cross Drive. And staff has spoken with the design team, and it appears that option one, creating a one-way for Brooks Loop and Cross Drive, is the preferred design. So with that being said, I'd like to address the variance request. As I said earlier, the petitioner is requesting a variance from AMC 2180-010 dedication of streets to allow the petitioner to not dedicate any additional right-of-way with this platting action. I'll go through each of the standards separately. Standard number one, staff finds that this standard appears to be met. This subdivision was created in 1960 with only a 30-foot dedication. The majority of the lots within the subdivision are developed, and obtaining a 60-foot wide right-of-way dedication for the entire length of Brooks Loop appears to be unlikely. Furthermore, the Eagle River Traffic Mitigation Design Study Report appears to support a one-way street design. It's because of these conditions that strict application of the subdivision regulations is unreasonable. Standard number two, staff finds that this standard appears to be met. This variance does not appear to be detrimental to the public welfare or interest to other property in the area. Planning staff has consulted with the engineering firm working on the Eagle River Traffic Mitigation Design Study Report, and it appears as though the one-way loop street is the preferred design. The Eagle River Community Council and the Chugiak Eagle River Chamber of Commerce are both supportive of the requested variance. Standard number three, staff finds that this standard appears to be met, given the preferred design for Brooks Loop is one way, and that the municipality of Anchorage is not attempting to acquire additional right-of-way. The requested variance does not appear to have the effect of nullifying the subdivision regulations. Standard number four, staff finds that this standard appears to be met. Undue hardship would result for the petitioner from strict compliance with the subdivision regulations. If this variance were not granted, the property owner would need to dedicate an additional 15 feet along Brooks Loop, which would impact his ability to provide the necessary parking for his business. Considering the circumstances and that the Eagle River Traffic Mitigation Design Study Report appears to support a one-way street, additional dedication appears to be an undue hardship and is unnecessary at this time. So with that being said, staff would like to recommend approval of the variance and approval of the plat, subject to the conditions listed on pages 6 and 7 of your staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? This time we would ask to have the petitioner's presentation.
I'm Vern Rawls. I'm the engineer for the petitioner with VEI Consultants. As Dave was saying, this is case number S12160, looking at combining 3 lots into one. The petitioner, Tim Eben, is here with me. He has a existing successful business. It's been going 5 or 10 years there in Eagle River, and currently employs 7 people. And with the new facility he's proposing to build on these lots, he could employ up to 25. He has done a lot of work in the community, talking with his neighbors, going to the community council, Chamber of Commerce, and both groups are supportive of the petition and the variance, and their letters are in your packet. I think it's pages 24 through 26. Dave covered a lot of the things I was going to say, but one of the things, there were some notes in there for drainage, and as you can see on the site design, the subject lots, they do collect a little bit of drainage from the surrounding lots from the east and from the south, and we'll need to make provision for that in the site design to continue to carry that water, transmit that water. The drainage is also set up to provide detention for the additional impervious area that's going to be caused by the new development. So that's going to be covered. The other thing that I guess might be of interest to you, we did spend a little time looking at the existing 30-foot right-of-way to make sure that it could handle a one-way street. The terrain is fairly level through the area, and there appears to just be no problem in putting in a one-way street in the 30-foot right-of-way. With that pretty much concludes what we have to say. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions for the petition? You have 7 minutes and 53 seconds for rebuttal.
Okay.
And with that, we'll open the hearing to public testimony. Are there any groups that have a representative? Are there any individuals that would like to discuss or speak on the matter? Anyone at all? Well, with that, the public hearing is closed and the matter now rests with the board. Oh, unless you'd like to use your rebuttal. Thank you. With the matter now rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the request for a variance? Dan Young has moved. Trevor Edmondson has seconded. Dan, would you please state your motion?
Yes, in the case of S12160-1 A1 Cross subdivision, I move for approval of the request for variance from AMC 21.80.010 dedications streets to allow the petitioner to not dedicate any additional right-of-way for Brooks Loop, subject to, number one, recording the suitable plat within 18 months of its approval and any time extensions.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support this motion, and I find that the information from staff on pages 5 and 6 is that the requirements for a vacation have been met. I also find that from the petitioner that they have selected option 1 of the 2 options to go with a one-way street, and the Eagle River Community Council has, who wasn't here tonight but submitted comments to support this, and the Chugach Eagle River Chamber of Commerce not only submitted comments in support of this, but they had a very extensive investigation before they chose option 1. So everything is consistent with the community, with the requirements for variance, and there is no opposition, and so I'm going to support this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Trevor Edmondson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just also like to state, I think Dan may have touched on this briefly, but that I just wanted to touch on the fact that the Eagle River Traffic Mitigation Design Study supports a one-way street design, which the current 30-foot right-of-way could handle. So I think that the long-term planning in this area is in support of this variance as well.
Thank you. Any additional findings or comments from the board? Is there anyone in opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Do we have a motion to approve the plat for 18 months? Daniel Young moves, and Ken Fuller seconds. Would you please state your motion for the record, Mr. Young?
Yes, in the matter of case S12160-1, I move to approve the plat for 18 months, 18 months, subject to the following conditions, number 1 through 3 on pages 6 and 7 of our staff packet.
Thank you. And would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I'm going to support this motion. This seems to meet all the requirements for a plat. It's straightforward, and we've heard enough discussion, in my opinion, that we can approve this.
Thank you. Any other comments or findings? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next, we'll take up the matter of case S12207, O'Malley Square subdivision. And there is a request by the petitioner to have this postponed to November 4th, 2015. May I have a motion to postpone S12207? Trevor Edmondson has moved. Christina Enix has seconded. Please state your motion for the record.
In case S12207, O'Malley Square subdivision plat, I move for the postponement so that the petitioner can resolve issues related to this plat.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion to postpone? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next, we'll move to case S12208, Lingo subdivision. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for subdivision of 2 lots into 1 lot with a variance from AMC 2180-300D design standards. Lot dimensions: the width of a lot shall be at least 1/3 the depth of a lot. The petitioner wishes to construct an addition on the existing house, and in order to do this, the interior lot line must be removed to conform to the R1A district regulation setbacks. The petition site is located on the north side of Wildwood Lane, east of Forest Park Drive. As I stated before, the property is zoned R1A, single-family residential district. The property was originally platted in 1941, and subsequent to that plat, the property was further subdivided by warranty deed to create the east half of Lot 1 and the west half of Lot 2. This subdivision removes that interior lot line and creates 1 lot. As I stated just a second ago, the petitioner is requesting a variance from AMC 2180-300D for a lot width to depth ratio. I'll go through each of the standards separately. Standard number 1, staff finds that this standard is met. The existing house was originally constructed in 1955, and at that time the house spanned the interior lot line separating the 2 parcels. This proposed plat seeks to eliminate the interior lot line and move the property in the direction of conformity with AMC 2180-300D. This situation constitutes a special circumstance and makes strict application of the subdivision regulations impractical. Standard number 2, staff finds this standard to be met. The granting of this variance will move the property in the direction of conformity with the subdivision regulations and will be of no detriment to the public welfare or interest to other property in the area. Standard number 3, staff finds that this standard is met. The granting of this variance will allow the property owner, the property to move in the direction of conformity with the subdivision regulations, and thus will not have the effect of nullifying the intent and purpose of the subdivision regulations. Standard number 4, staff finds that this standard is met. Undue hardship would result for the petitioner from strict compliance with the subdivision regulations. If this variance were not granted, the property owner would not be able to initiate the proposed addition on the existing house, and the property would not move closer to conformity with the municipal subdivision regulations. So with that being said, staff would like to recommend approval of the variance and approval of the plat, subject to the conditions on pages 6 and 7 of your staff packet, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff? Seeing none, we will open it to public hearing, and we'd like to take the petitioner's presentation.
Hello, my name is Sean. I'm a licensed land surveyor for LCG Land Tech. We are representing the petitioner, and this is Mark Flanham, the property owner. We agree with the staff's report and don't have any thing to say against that. So we're just kind of hoping to move this process along as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Any questions? You have 9 minutes and 39 seconds for rebuttal. Are there any group representatives? Are there any members of the individuals of the public that would wish to speak? Seeing none, would you like to use any rebuttal? Rebuttal is waived, so the matter now rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the request for variance? Trevor Edmondson moves and Don Porter seconds. Mr. Edmondson, would you please state your motion for the record?
Mr. Chair, in case S12208 Lingo subdivision, I move for the approval of the request for variance from AMC 21.80.300D, design standards, lot dimensions, which require that the width of the lot shall be at least 1/3 the depth of a lot, subject to the recording of a suitable plat within 18 months of its approval.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I intend to support my motion. As staff has stated, this request seems to meet the 4 variance questions that we are obligated to prove out. I'd just like to say that the existing house was constructed in 1955, and this action brings the property into conformity, closer to conformity with AMC 21.80.300D. And I'd also like to state that this action appears to have no detrimental effect to the public, or is grossly against any of the design standards that we have, and again brings the property closer to conformity with the standards that exist today.
Thank you. Any other comments or findings? Daniel Young?
Yes, I intend to support this motion also, and I just want to reiterate the comments from staff on pages 5 and 6 show that their findings, which I want to incorporate as our findings, that the requirements for a vacation request have been met, and they've detailed the reasons for that. And for those reasons, I'm going to support this motion.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to the motion? Seeing no opposition to the motion passes. May I now have a motion to approve the plat for 18 months? Don Porter moves, and Trevor Edmondson seconds. Would you please state your motion?
Yes, through the chair. As we've previously discussed this, I move to approve the plat for 18 months, subject to conditions 1 through 6, including 5A, B, and C, and 6, 5A, B, and C. It's
On pages 6 and 7 of the plat? Thank you. And would you like to speak to your motion?
as we've previously discussed, approval of 18 months for this plat would be appropriate in this manner. We've already discussed the merits of the approval and the standards. So,
thank you. Any other findings? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. We will now take up the matter case S12213, Roseberry Ridge Estates, edition number 1. May we have the staff presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The petitioner's request to subdivide Roseberry Ridge Estates Edition Number 1, Track C, into 4 lots with a variance from design standards for lot frontage. The variance approval would allow proposed lots 3 and 4 to use the existing public use easement for access instead of dedicated right-of-way. In terms of the variance, Standard 1 appears to be met. There's very steep topography affecting the property. Currently, the use of the public use easement that runs along the ridgeline of the mountain provides access to the lots further uphill. Given the terrain, it's unreasonable to require right-of-way dedication and improvements for the creation of only 4 lots. Furthermore, the majority of the public use easement lies outside of the property boundary of the proposed subdivision. Requiring dedication of right-of-way would not match with the public use easements that exist on the lots to the north. Standard number 2 is met. The granting the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare. The petition site will continue to have legal and physical access through existing recorded public use easement, which is privately maintained. Standard number 3 is met. The variance will not have the effect of nullifying the intent of the subdivision regulations or the Chugach Eagle River Comprehensive Plan update. There are special conditions affecting the property which warrant the variance. Standard number 4 is met. There's no public benefit from requiring this subdivision to front dedicated right-of-way. The right-of-ways or the roads being built under a previously approved subdivision agreement. The Department's recommending approval for the variance and also approval for the plat, subject to conditions 1 through 7 on pages 5 and 6 of the staff packet. I'll also point to late comments received today, this afternoon, that were laid on the table this evening. I want to point you to those late public comments. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and the petitioners here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Just Trevor Edmondson.
Through the chair, I want to clarify that the public use easements already exist. Is that correct?
Yes, they do.
So there is no need for additional public use easements to follow through on the platting action that is being requested tonight.
Correct. This was all, in terms of the road, it was handled by a previous subdivision about 3 years ago.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And Dan Young.
Yes, through the chair to the board, I want to address on page 79, there was an affidavit of posting on the 12th of August, and we're receiving late comments that were just submitted today. I haven't had time to review these. There's an entire page of comments that I think either we should take some time out to look at this and be able to ask these questions of staff and the petitioner, or disregard these comments because they've had more than a month to submit them, and it's abusive to this board to submit comments at the last minute like this.
So do you have a motion either to recess or to set aside the information on?
I believe that we should reject these. On the other hand, just because they're late and somewhat voluminous, and we haven't had time to study these, and we've had last week and this weekend to prepare for the hearing without these. On the other hand, it's early enough tonight, and this is our last case, so I think we should take some time out and review these, but it's up to the board. So my motion is to take 10 minutes and review these.
Is there a second?
I second. Second the motion to take 10 minutes and read them.
And
Take your 10 minutes. Can I give you some more to review?
you can provide yours during public comment. Okay, does anyone wish to discuss taking 10 minutes to read over these minutes, or these stuff on the table? Dan Young?
I'll support my motion, and we'll take 10 minutes.
Right. Trevor Edmondson?
I support the motion as well, but I want to reiterate what Mr. Young has commented on, and that, to do service to the community, we need time to review these comments, and particularly if they're technical in nature, which these appear to be, could be, without really have looked at them, but it takes time to do this right and to review it correctly, and to get the comments, a couple minutes before the start of the hearing isn't right and doesn't do the community justice, I think, in this case. And so I know staff understands our position on this. We've talked about it before, and I'd just like to say to those that respond to these comments that there's a reason why there's these posting dates that are out there, and there's a reason why there's timetables, and that's to give us the opportunity to do what the community is asking us to do, and that's to review this thoroughly. So I will support it, but again, I totally agree with everything Mr. Young has said.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing none, the motion passes. We are now in recess for 10 minutes. The Platting Board is now back in session. And we will take staff's presentation on case S12213.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Staff does not have anything more to add, but would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions of staff? With that, then, we will proceed with the petitioner's presentation. Would you like to reserve any of your time for rebuttal?
Yes, I would.
You have a stated amount you want to reserve, or
Pardon me, say again?
do you have a stated amount you want to reserve for rebuttal? Or just wait and see?
All that I don't use in my initial comments.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Seward. I'm the petitioner's representative. I'm also the land surveyor that prepared this plat. On the initial packet, we agree with the staff's findings and recommendations, have no problem meeting those conditions. I, like you, was kind of shocked at the last minute information here, and so that's what I really want to speak to you about. I broke them down into the on the second page. I call it A, regarding the variance, the hardship, self and pros. This tract could actually be made into 5 lots by the new code, but we went the old code. That's what the property owners wanted, was 4 lots, and so we're actually going with a little bit less density on the property. The variance is for public use dedication, not lot design. There, we meet all the requirements. The road is just now being finalized. It's a very nice road. It's under the standards and requirements of municipality for that area. And the second item there is B, regarding the proposed subdivision, lots have approximately 45-degree slopes, etc. The slopes in this lot, they meet Title 21s. The design, everything meets Title 21 in the design of the lots. Parallel with that public use easement across these 4 lots is a ridge line that's very nice. Topographically, it's relatively flat. The driveways, the access to the building sites, the septics, it's all very nice. I mean, it is very minimal slopes for driveways, and they're not going to be no 20% driveways, 10%. There. Down below the lower part of the slopes, yes, it falls over that ridge, and it is, but that's they're not going to be building in that area. The sites, the building sites, they're going to be normal grades. Like I say, that runs parallel with the lot design. Paragraph C, regarding the topography, yeah, that's submitted. That was the original. Topography doesn't change. Where it changes is the road design, where they've done that, the ditches and the road and the construction of that. That's everything. That's the only thing that's changed. That's under the jurisdiction of the municipality there. And it's just now being completed. So it's meeting the standards. The subdivision that road accesses several lots up above. I think it shows on page 7 or 8 of Roseberry Highlands above. So it's accessing several other lots there. I think about a total of 9 above this subdivision. There'll be no impact on increased traffic. It's an easy accessible area. Paragraph 4, regarding the test hole data. The engineers, Garnett's Engineering, he does probably the majority of the engineering on-site septic designs in the municipality of Anchorage. He's very well qualified. Everything's going to meet Title 21 standards. Excuse me. Again, the building sites are in a relative area. The septic tanks, everything's going to meet the requirements of Title 21 for these lots. So I have the concern of adjacent neighboring property. Anything with rocks, or I mean, that's not part of our question. That's a legal question to call the police on or anything. But these houses are going to be at the upper end of the lots, close to the road, and the whole impacted area is going to be there. They're not going to be down over the bluff near the lower lots on High Bluff Drive there. So that pretty much concludes my topics. I'd love to answer any questions, and again, I want to reserve my excess time for rebuttal.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes and 44 seconds for rebuttal. In the meantime, do we have any questions? Don Porter has a question for you.
Yes, through the chair. So, I mean, the majority of the concern in these late comments is about the septic systems and access to the systems and all that. So, has someone actually drawn out the reserve systems at this point in time for each lot?
I'm not sure how far along Garness is on that. They were hired separately from me on that. I know they've done their test hole and some work up there, but I'm not sure how far along they are on it. But it's obviously a municipal requirement, and it will have to be met wherever they're at. So I'm not sure. I can't speak for Garness on that. All I know is that they've done some preliminary work, enough to meet their preliminary submittal there. So I'm not sure how far along they are at this point.
Any additional questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hang on 1 minute. Kevin Cross has a question for you.
I just wanted a statement as in regards to your question. One of the conditions was number 6B is, along with this approval, is that they have to, areas designated for the original and placement of wastewater disposal system sites must be identified and meet all criteria. So one of the criteria they specifically specified is that has to be done. So they've already addressed that. So.
Thank you. Don Porter.
Yes, the purpose of my question was to, addressing, I see those recommendations are there, so those requirements are there, and so it would have helped us make a little quicker, or at least address the concerns that had been brought up if they had already been drawn up. If not, we just have to go with what are requirements out there to put them in. So that's all.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, and I agree. Really, the bottom line is that all plats are signed by on-site. That's one of the final signatures that we get. The plat does not become recorded unless we satisfy their requirements. And a lot of times we request, say January, February, we request through staff that can we waive the test holes because equipment's not available. It might be a bad time of year, a lot of snow, so the engineering stuff is done later and that. But it still has to meet the requirements before on-site signs the final plat there. So that condition people's work times, and that has an effect on it to a respect. So,
Ken Fuller.
Yes, just observation on your subdivision appears to be 2.5 acre lots, and your neighboring lots appear to be somewhat smaller that are already existing, and then on the west side of you, they're even well down to 1 acre or less sized lots. So is this area topographically pretty much all similar?
Yes, up above, actually the lots are, I would say, steeper and they're more consistent grade, where these lots have a nice bench parallel with the road, but the upper lots aren't.
Right, your topo shows 940 to 1040, so you're really in a 100-foot range. So, and your road all appears to be right about 1,000 elevation, 1,000 to 1,026. But my point is that the development that's already there has survived and existed now for a number of years. So, is there anticipation that this would be a greater challenge than the existing area that's developed?
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any representatives of groups that would like to speak? Please come forward. Please come forward.
Can you hear me? First of all, I'd like to sincerely apologize for this last-minute input. There are...
Could you state which group you're with?
Oh, I'm an individual resident homeowner on High Bluff Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you please give us your name?
My name is Marguerite Colhane. I live at 19545 High Bluff Drive, which is the top house on High Bluff. I also have a letter from my neighbor, who is the first house down below me. He works on the slope, so he could not come tonight. He is a compliance officer with EPA, in case you're interested. I'll leave that for you guys to read. It's all technical stuff. I built my house 30 years ago. At that time, I spent 3 years fighting mudslides. So I am concerned about mudslides. The area directly above me is extremely steep. The second year I had my house, I had a tree, a cottonwood tree that was a good 12 to 16 inches in diameter, slide right off the hill, root ball and all, right into the middle of my driveway. So the steepness of that hill, the problems of septic systems directly above my well, above the well of my neighbors, is a concern. The hill constantly sloughs off rocks the size of baseballs to footballs. It's a constant problem. And so I would like him, before he starts building, to really consider that. I had to spend a lot of money putting what you call gabions into the hill to stabilize it, to stop the mudslides. So I would appreciate if that would be considered. And again, I'm sorry for the lateness of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Don Porter?
And I can't get my scooter going, so hang on a minute.
Well, actually, I have a question
for you, ma'am.
for you. If you could maybe hang out for just a minute.
Sure.
You indicate you're downhill from these proposed lots.
Yes.
Are you the house shown on the, I mean, I don't know if you have, could you tell us your lot number? Or you're on High Bluff?
I don't know what the lot number is. It's 19545 High Bluff, which is actually the road. High Bluff Drive actually ends, and then my driveway goes straight out from there. So I would be 1A. And then my neighbor, the one that submitted the letter, would be, what's that one? 12. There are two other houses that are senior citizens that could not come tonight. One household, the Coughlins, are both struggling with extremely serious health problems, and the other is a caregiver for somebody that is in serious dementia, could not come either. But they both asked me to talk, since I'm the able-bodied senior citizen.
So, I'm interested in, do you feel that they're going to change the overall topography of all of the lots when they do the development?
My concern is the mudslides because of the steepness in the hills. There is vegetation on that hill, but that vegetation will slide right off because there's bedrock immediately underneath, and you get any water moving under there, and it just slides right down the hill.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else from the board?
Yes, since you've stabilized your slopes, through the chair, please, have you had any further problem? You've been up there how many years? 30 years?
I have small problems constantly, you know, with rocks, like I said, the size of baseball to football size. That's a constant problem.
And do they slide down into your neighbor's lot?
They don't go over my hill. So my house would be here, and then my road is down below me, so they don't go beyond my road. The state widened that road quite a bit about 10 years ago, so they don't go beyond that.
Thank you. And can I get you to spell your last name?
Culhane.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals or groups that wish to speak?
Good evening.
Please state your name and spell your last name for us.
My name is Michael Clare, C-L-A-R-E.
Thank you.
I maintain a residence, a rental residence. I travel quite frequently, and so I maintain a small residence also at Marguerite's. I also worked for a little bit over 5 years for S&S Engineering, which was one of the major engineering firms in the Eagle River area, and especially up the valley. What I'm familiar with is a number of cases where, as development went on up the hill and up the hill and up the hill, that you have the rock slides and those kind of things. Of course, we try and, when we're engineering them, we try and mitigate those problems, the gabion walls and the structures and how we cut the bank and all those kind of things. Naturally, any cut we make into the bank, regardless of the slope, is going to return to a natural slope. And it's going to do that by losing soil from the surface. If there's gravel underneath, the whole area is filled with water runs, for lack of a better term, basically gravel areas that run all the way to the bottom that water runs through. Quite often we drill into those and drill through them. Things may be different up on top, but most of those wells are hard rock wells, and they go down 400 to 500 feet. Some are probably less, maybe some are more. Of course, if the water, the aquifer you're trying to get into is at the 500-foot level at 500 foot of elevation, when you go up to 1,000 feet of elevation, where, if I understand right, these lots are, now you're going to be drilling a 1,000-foot well. The cost is pretty prohibitive, but if people can afford it, that's wonderful, with the exception being now you've got twice as many people arguing over that amount of water. The next concern is if they put a septic system in, I don't know what the soil reports look like because I haven't seen them. This was sprung on me last minute also, not through anybody's fault, but my concern with the septic systems is you hit those gravel benches that go all the way to the bottom. The well drillers in the area will tell you all about that stuff. The guys that started drilling in the 50s and the guys that still drill today will tell you about those benches. And there's several areas in this Eagle River Chugiak area where water has been ruined by nitrates because the septic systems that went in hit those benches and leaked into groundwater and it made its way to wells. So the concerns of most of these people is that the groundwater is going to be affected and they're going to pay the price down at the bottom of the hill. And that's basically our concern between the septics and the additional well drilling, that we be mindful of that for the people that already reside there. And I think that kind of catches a lot of the concerns.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Yes, sir.
We have a few questions. Dan Young.
Yes, through the chair. Thank you. I do a lot of work with groundwater. Have you or anybody else done a groundwater study that shows that developing this property is going to impact another lot?
No, I broach those subjects because those are things that I did when I worked for S&S. Okay. I'm not saying that's a for sure. I'm saying that's what the concerns are, that we're going to broach the water systems that are up there already. And of course, increased demand. The water is not a limitless project.
Okay, so there's no studies have been done, so you're just speculating. Is that correct?
I'm just looking at my personal experience where wells have gone dry. Things went in above lots and their wells went dry. Can I prove that their well didn't go dry for an arbitrary reason? No, of course not. But can I speculate? Yes, absolutely.
All right. And then on the septic systems again, have you have you seen any studies that show that placing septic systems on this property would cause harm to other adjacent subdivisions?
No, I haven't seen any of them, and like Mr. Seward, I'm not even sure that they've done any of those studies. Again, I haven't reviewed all this documentation. Again, I'm just expressing the concerns of a lot of the people that are up there, that as things go in up high, they have to adjust their wells, or their wells go dry in connection with, it just so happens that wells above them have gone in, now their well is dry.
So with respect to this property,
right.
With respect to this property, you have no facts to support that.
No, and we won't have the facts until the wells are drilled and the septics go in and they're in effect for a while, and then you'll have some facts to deal with. I mean, right now, of course, we're dealing with Title 21. We're just going to do it appropriately. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying it's been my experience. These things have happened in the past, and that is the concern of the people in the area that live there now on High Bluff.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else from the public wishing to speak on the matter? Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Craig Fisher. I live down the hill. I might be able to answer some of your questions here. I live at 19050 Mount Magnificent Circle, which is one of the adjacent lots to the proposed lot being subdivided. And I'm the president of the Roseberry Ridge Estates Homeowners Association, but I'm speaking as an individual. We met a couple times as a homeowners association, waiting data back from the Highlands. This is kind of a two-phased, I guess, query, if you will. So a lot of this data is based off of Roseberry Highlands going in above this. This road will service that. That's 9 lots in that acreage up there that is already had a variance for cluster plotting, group septics that will be nitrate reducing septic systems, as well as notes written on the plot plans that require fire suppression systems for all those houses above it, as well as note that those wells are low volume producing wells. So the 3 points of contention I have are erosion control, fire safety, and groundwater. The subdivision above was promised to deliver studies independent of that. The last studies that were proposed as far as water tables, erosion control, and any sort of subdivision were done 12 to 14 years ago for Roseberry Ridge Estates. That study was for a total of 10 lots. Since then, new lots have been piggybacked on this, adding 13 more lots. No new erosion control studies. Promises of these, none delivered, that I can find. So over a 50% increase or 100% increase in that. The most recent house that's being built up top has only gone to drill a well within the last couple of weeks. They're currently at 400 feet. I don't know if they've hit water. I have 2 wells on my property. One's moderately producing, and the other is pretty good. So there has been issues in the past of making sure you hit high flow wells. There is the department recommendation on page 5 of the staff analysis, number 6, addressing and requires documentation for all water availability to serve existing and proposed wells. That was a question that we asked of the being subdivision above, and have yet to have that.
Thank you. That's your time.
Oh, okay.
Do we have any questions for him? Don Porter.
Could you please clarify where you live?
Yeah, I'm Lot 1, Block 1 of Roseberry Ridge Estates. So as you're looking On this, I am southwest, 50% of Track C. I am the southwestern bound lot, the big dog leg. There was a gentleman here that's erosion control expert that was going to speak, but he's stuck on Fire Island. Mark Hobbs. He lives across the way at Lot 2, Block 2.
Okay, so you're 1A?
I am.
And so essentially your concern is that there's more lots going in than was originally planned for?
The studies that were done on the water table, the studies that were done for erosion control, any of the large studies, group studies, were done for Roseberry Ridge Estates. There was other studies that are, by my research, showing that has to be provided for our Roseberry Highlands that's yet to be produced that I can find. It requires ground well or water monitoring. It also requires that there be fire suppression systems put in for each of this. They do have septics plotted for each of those lots. One of the concerns that I have was it's group septics and nitrate reducing. I mean, there's things here I'm not, this isn't my forte. I'm a military gentleman that works over in Alaskan Command that will be living here permanently, so I'm taking my best swag at this.
Okay, well, I guess I just wanted is this report then in the packet?
There is no new report. That was the report that was put out in the early 2000s for Roseberry Ridge Estates. That's the last group study that I can find that was done on any of these properties and how they all as a group may be affected, how adjacent properties may be affected.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Ken Fuller.
Let's through the chair, please. You mentioned, excuse me,
Sir?
Mr. Claire, our Fisher.
Thank you. we have another question for you.
You mentioned that the fire suppression systems are required up there.
Correct.
Does your house have a?
No. I'm on Mount Magnificent Circle, which is the last public right of way in that area. Any houses, when they're subdividing the lots above,
Are you
there's
above or below this subdivision?
Below. I'm below.
You're below.
I'm touching, but below. The concern is with no public right of way.
Isn't that beside it? Isn't that?
It is. It's beside it, but when you lay a topographical over it, the ridge line puts me a bit below.
Okay. Now, so in this picture here, I count about 60 plus residences that are currently up there, correct? Do they all have water?
When you're actually at that level, any of the other residents are slightly down or downward. I can pull the same picture.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, in this little picture right here, I count about 60 residences.
That sounds about right.
And that's an average of what, 3.2 people?
Sure, if you're saying so.
So 4 lots would be 12 more people? 14 people? 12 to 14 people?
At that particular point, but there's 9 more lots that are going on above that.
Those lots. We don't have the privilege of dealing with those lots.
Right, but this road will service that. This will be the only way to access those lots.
Okay, and so other lots will in the future be developed up there?
Correct. They're required to have studies producing, which will answer all these questions that we're talking about, but they can only be accessible by the road that goes through here, which is why there's fire suppression systems required up there, because there's no way to get a fire truck up there and there's no public right of way to get fire trucks up there.
Okay, but there are houses up there.
Well, there's lots up there that are attempting to be developed.
So none of these up above have been developed yet?
No.
There's no occupants in any of these?
No, there's one lot that has a well in progress, and that, we're not trying to get anybody else's business. It's everybody's business to develop their land as they choose, but we are interested in those studies because collectively.
So to the east side, where it says Steeple Drive and the 3 different points of Steeple Drive, none of those lots are occupied either?
I'm not sure on Steeple Drive. I'm simply talking about the lots that are Track A and Track B above that, as far as I can look at your document there and see.
This is Steeple Drive over.
Right. Those I'm not sure on the status of those lots. Those are lower elevation than the...
Maybe staff can answer that question. Are those houses on Steeple Drive, do they exist, or is this photo just showing bare driveways?
When I drove through the chair, Mr. Fuller, when I drove the site, it was my first time up that road, and some of the lots looked developed and some not yet developed. It was a mix.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
It seems that there's a lot of studies that could be done, and the new code it would probably allow for that, but I just hope that we at least give it its due diligence to, out of fire safety alone. If there's not waters up there and you can't get trucks up there, I don't know how you
Thank you.
stop that fire.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak on the matter? Please come forward. Please state your name and spell your last name.
Peter Huko, H-E-W-K-O.
Thank you.
I first would like to apologize for submitting the late comments. The notice of this hearing came out while I was out hunting, and my time to respond was limited, and that's the reason why they were late. I was not trying to disrespect your job in any way. I have some concerns, including with what has been stated tonight, that only the north portion of these lots will be developed, especially regarding Lot 3. If one looks at the topography of the area and where the level bench is that is mentioned for building, and then looks at the recorded public use easements, the two overlap almost in their entirety. This would force any development of the lot to the extreme south, which forces the concerns mentioned in the comments regarding access down the slopes, the issues with septic and access of septic pumping to those locations year-round. As I mentioned in the comments, there's test holes that were dug at the high side of these lots, which is not consistent with typical development of a system. Generally, things flow downhill, and they're designed like that, as opposed to intending lift stations to put the disposal field at the top. Let's see. And also regarding the comments as to Garness providing the locations for those systems, the letter provided by Garness Engineering states that Seward and Associates is going to locate those systems, and that there are some concerns regarding being able to meet the slope requirements. It concerns me especially that the people involved in this are pointing fingers at each other as to who's responsible for this, and I think it would be good that these issues be resolved beforehand, not that things get developed and then, oh, well, we've got this, now we have to deal with it. The Title 21 is to promote logical growth. It seems like the logic involved in the development of this tract is to pack as many new lots onto it as possible.
I think that's your time. Do we have any questions for Mr. Huko? Mr. Cross.
Regarding your written statement, you also provided here, one of your concerns is that topography submitted to the application is information rolled out to you.
Mr. Cross, can you turn your microphone on, please?
I apologize.
Oh, you sound much better.
Thank you. In regards to your written testimony that you also submitted, I believe your third item here regarding the topography submitted to the application of this information is old and outdated. Based on the topography that we have, are you aware of of a significant change to topography?
I'm aware of a couple. Let's see, it would be the southwest corner where there is slope easement. There has been significant cut work done within that slope easement, which does not show up on the topography. Within the public use easement, in roughly the center of the tract, there has been a lot of fill work done. The grade within the public use easement is, and I haven't measured this, I'm going to guess 8 to 10 feet higher than existing grade, which makes any driveways coming to the south more of an issue. This is primarily towards the center of the lot, towards the northeast at Mount Magnificent Circle. The road is actually running through a cut in that location, which does not show up in the topography. There is a cut on Lot 6 of Highland Terrace that is not shown. That would be a short list of things that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Don Porter.
So I have to ask in my mind, all of the items that you're bringing up are speculative in nature until someone actually submits for review and requirement to follow the recommendations. So what you're bringing to us are speculative concerns that solid waste services and some of these other folks that are doing the review are not going to do their review properly. So that in and itself puts us in a quandary, and maybe you can understand what I'm saying, but we have to go and look at it, well, the requirements are going to be held to AMC, whatever is stated for a septic system. And we have to believe that the rest of the processes are going to occur. If they don't, then they'll have to come back and ask for a revision of this plat.
Yeah,
You understand
and
what I'm saying?
I guess my concern was to make sure that the process is followed. I'm aware of other places where variances were requested after the fact. Parcel got subdivided, house was put on it. Oh, there's a spring on here and we can't put a septic system in, so we're going to do a variance to allow this development to take place. My concern is that the lots are developed in accordance, not that we're doing work after the fact. So that was going through the information that was available off the website. I was concerned that I did not see some of these things that were required being addressed in this proposal.
Right, and so just as an understanding of the process, what happens here is that once we tell them that they have to satisfy that requirement, the plat will not get approved until, in this case, the on-site services sign off that this information has been provided.
Okay.
If you follow what I'm saying. So our approval is let in this case, if we were to approve this, they would have to follow through with that, and they would not be able to get their plat completed until on-site services signs off on it.
Okay, yeah.
Any more questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else from the public wishing to speak on the matter? Please state your name and spell your last.
Judy Hartley, Hartley.
Thank you.
My landlord is Marguerite Culhane, and I'm here on behalf of her, and she's very concerned about the septic and the water. As far as she's in the southeast corner of this proposed subdivision, and she's concerned about the erosion and the runoff of the water that may be coming down the hill because the slope is really steep. And I'm not sure of the slope limits, but it is maybe about 6-to-1 slope that goes from her driveway up to where the proposed subdivision is going. And I know it might be speculative, and I have trust that the municipality will have the people that are doing the work do what they have to do, and there's a fair review on the septic. And as far as the 100-foot where the septic and the water are, because her water is right at the base of the hill, and if the subdivision is on the top, I mean, how do you measure if you have a steep slope and the 100-foot radius? How does that work? Anyway, that's my concern, and I just wanted to let you guys know about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have questions for Judy Hartley?
Yes.
Daniel Young.
Thank you. Through the chair, you have you raised 3 issues that I captured: septic, water, and erosion. And with the septic, you talked about separation. What's the water issue? You just said water. What do you mean?
The well is at the base of the hill.
Okay.
From the subdivision.
So the well's at the base of the hill. What does that mean?
I just was interested in what the 100-foot, if the 100-foot from this, they're going to put a septic in, would that encompass the 100 feet from like down the hill, down the slope down the hill?
So your concern is the well going to be 100 feet from the septic system?
From their septic system, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Anyone at all? Seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed and the matter rests with the board. All right. I take that back. You're now allowed to have your rebuttal.
Thank you.
You have 5 minutes and 44 seconds.
Okay, I'm counting. I'd just like to comment on the residents in the area, their concerns. On my quick notes, I'm not sure where any rocks could be coming from in this area. The road that's now constructed is flat. You would actually have to throw the rock over the bluff to get anything to go below this, and that road was just constructed this year. It's all covered by vegetation. There's no open slide areas, rock areas. It's big trees. In that lower left-hand corner where that PUE easement is, that's kind of a steep area cut for the switchback, but that's not affecting anything downhill. It would come to the road if anything did roll off that. Again, all water and septic is going to meet standards. It's quite common now that we're seeing now fire suppressant system notes on plats are becoming more and more common through on-site in the fire department when there's low well areas there. That becomes a plat note and a requirement for that. Fire trucks do access this area. The one gentleman that's on Lot A, there's 3 or 4 houses above his around that circle there. Those are all developed, relatively new houses. The Steeple Drive, there was a question on that showed on the black and white to the east. Yes, those are houses. I've surveyed Eagle River for years and years. I'm familiar with all them, that area. Those aren't just driveways. Those are developed lots and houses to the east. The last page note on Garness and Seward, our working relationship, there's no animosity there. It's I've worked with Garness, not for them, but providing data to them for years. We have a good working relation. There's no animosity or anything in that of point fingers or whatever, this or that. It's a requirement that the Garness engineer is going to need for their future septic designs and stuff. That I think I've pretty much covered. The one last lady, the separation between wells and septics are 100-foot horizontal distance. It might be 200 feet on the slope, but it's 100-foot horizontal. So again, I can answer any other questions or concerns that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Dan Young.
Thank you, Mr. Seward. On the, we heard a lot of comment tonight about erosion and erosion problems. I'm not sure I understand that, so maybe you can help clarify this. Are there erosion problems that you're aware of that need to be addressed or that will be addressed? And I want to separate that question from slope stability. So let's talk about erosion, which is what has been brought up tonight. Are there erosion problems that we should know about?
No. I've walked that area. There's no sign of erosion. The road's fully developed. It's a very nice road for that mountainside. It's big, it's wide, it's a beautiful structure. And the erosion, even if there was a erosion along that roadbed, it would not affect the property downhill from this property. The ridge line is there. That road is 100 feet from that, and it's not in a 45-degree slope. It's in a relatively flat bench there.
Thank you. And through the chair, if I may, separating from erosion issues, are there slope stability issues that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of anything there. I see no sloughing, and where I've walked on that, I've walked crisscross that area.
Thank you.
Trevor Edmondson.
Thanks to the chair, Mr. Seward. This actually may be a question for staff too. So I want to clarify that your recommended conditions for approval address a couple things. So I'm going to throw out a list here, and if you could help me, clarify that some of the concerns that we've heard tonight will be addressed in the process of approving this plat. So I heard tonight that the septic location and the type of septic system could potentially be an issue. Do your conditions of approval that you've laid out in the staff packet address those?
Yes, they do.
Okay, the water well locations, I've heard a lot of comments about that tonight as well. Do the conditions of approval in your staff packet address, will those be addressed in the approval of this plat?
Yes, condition 6D says provide documentation for water availability to serve existing and proposed water wells. And page 27 of the packet shows the location of page 27 shows the location of wells with lots superimposed over the property. I'm not an engineer. I leave that to the on-site water and wastewater services division. Deb Walkenfuss is the head of that office. James Crutzen works with her and Jeff. And I can only assume that they will do their jobs in enforcing Title 15.
And we're not engineers either, and that's why we rely on staff and on the departments to do the reviews, to do the final approval of these plats so that we know that things are being done in the manner that they need to be. So, well, some of us up here are engineers, but most of us aren't. But okay, so couple last questions here. I've heard that Rose Roseberry Highlands, one of the conditions of that plat was for fire suppression, requirement for fire suppression on the construction of homes. Was that, I assume, one, that plat's been recorded, and two, did that come out of the approval process of the plat to meet the conditions, or was that a condition that was required by the Platting Board?
Through the chair, Mr. Edmondson, the Roseberry Highlands plat is on pages 9 and 10 of your packet. The lower corner, you can see Deb Walkenfuss's signature for that recorded plat. I'm looking for the plat note that you're referring to. There's a list of plat notes there. I just, I'm afraid I don't know if fire suppression plat note came from the department or through review of the reviewing agencies. In some cases, it's rare, but in some cases, if the municipal surveyor, if they find that a plat note needs to be added, they'll add that if it's, to the benefit of future, property owners.
Would the need for that system, would it be resolved through one of the comments that or one of the recommendations for approval that you have made?
Yes.
Okay. And my last question probably goes back to my first question, and Commissioner Young might be able to weigh on this a little bit, but I heard some comments tonight about nitrate reducing systems and septic system, nitrate reducing septic systems. And my last comment was, will the need for those be resolved as well through the approval of the plat as a part of one of the recommended conditions that you have here?
Yes, if anything essentially that the on-site water and wastewater services division wants to impose on the applicant, it'll be a requirement prior to final plat recording. The conditions of approval you've seen before, they're standard conditions of approval that are meant to capture everything within the Title 15 regulations that might be applicable to the property. The platting is a two-step process. There's the preliminary plat, which is here tonight, and then there'll be conditions of approval and the follow-up, and then the final plat. And we don't always have perfect information at this stage, but it'll be required prior to final plat recording.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. And Mr. Seward, maybe you can just touch on a couple of things. If it were determined during the resolution of some of these items that you need to do to get the plat approved, that you needed, for instance, fire suppression to be a part of the construction of the home, or that you needed a nitrate reducing septic system, would that be an issue to the applicant?
No, that wouldn't, because that's part of on-sites. That's what they do. They get the information and they come up with the requirement for that septic system, the well, fire suppression systems. In the previous plats I've done where we ran into the fire suppression, it's come from on-site, where it could be a low-producing well in areas, and they put that, Deb Walkerson requires that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Dan Young.
Thank you. Through the chair, at this time, are you planning on using nitrate reducing septic systems for this development?
I'm not the engineer, and I have no knowledge of that. I'm a land surveyor, so that would be Garnessa's area of that. So I'm not sure of what the results are or the design. I couldn't speak on the design of the septic system.
Thank you.
Don Porter.
Through the chair, this is actually a more question for staff, given that we've had a number of discussion about the fire suppression system versus fire access. Do we have confirmed fire department access to this road easement, public use easement, Magnificent Circle?
Yes.
So that's confirmed. You know that for a fact.
Yes.
And that's your understanding as well, correct?
Yes, that was
So-
resolved in the previous recorded plat. Farther up the mountain, another 1,000 feet, quarter mile.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now close the public hearing, and the matter rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the variance from AMC 2180-330? Don Porter moves, and Ken Fuller seconds. Would you please state your motion?
Through the chair, I make a motion that we approve a variance from AMC 2180-330 Design Standards, Lot Frontage and Access for Roseberry Ridge Estates Subdivision, Addition Number 1, Lots 1 through 4, subject to recording a suitable replat within 18 months at any time extensions.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. We have heard from staff that they have looked at the approval of variance, and it generally centers around whether it's a public use, a road easement, public use easement, or an actual road. And it has been substantiated that a public use easement is adequate for this standard. So I intend to support the motion.
Thank you. Are there any additional findings? Dan Young?
Yes, and with respect to this motion, the variances from the design standards for the lot frontage and access, and on page 2 of our packet, each item is addressed. Number 1, there are special circumstances or conditions, and one of those is the steep topography, and the other one is given that the terrain is unreasonable to require the right-of-way dedication and improvements for the creation of only 4 lots. And the packet states that furthermore, the majority of the improvements for the, furthermore, the majority of the public use easement lies outside of the boundary of the proposed subdivision. So that is a special circumstance. And item number 2 on that page is that this will not be detrimental to public welfare. And the findings are that the petition site will continue to have legal and physical access through the recorded public use easement, which is privately maintained. Item number 3, which are the conditions of a variance, is such a variance will not have the effect of nullifying the intent or purpose of the subdivision regulations. And I'm finding that the property is steeply sloped and the public use easement already provides access to 2 of the 4 lots. So this standard has been met. And on page 3, undue hardship would result from strict compliance with specific provisions. And I find that because the public use easement already provides adequate public access to the rural neighborhood, that this requirement has been met, and so I'm going to support this motion.
Thank you. Trevor Edmondson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I intend to support this motion too, and I just want to add a couple things. That the public use easements that will be used to access these lots currently exist. They already exist, and in fact there's a road being built within the easement to provide access to lots in the subdivision above the proposed subdivision that's before us tonight. So, we're not, they've already got access to the lots with what exists, and in fact, the city has gone through the approval for for construction of the road within that public use easement. And so I think a lot of the issues that, in regards to the construction of the road and access to the lots have already been addressed.
Thank you. Any additional comments or findings? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. May I have a motion to approve the plat for 18 months? Don Porter.
Through the chair, I move that we approve of the plat for 18 months, subject to items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including 6A, 6B, 6C, and 6D, and 7A and 7B.
Thank you. And Trevor Edmondson seconds. Would you speak to your motion, Mr. Porter?
Yes, I intend to support this motion. We've heard a lot of testimony about concerns that are speculative in nature and will be resolved by the process of approving both septic systems and water wells. We have to have faith in the system that these processes have been put in place to protect the public health and welfare. If these folks aren't going to do it, then the system is already broken down, and I believe that they are going to do it. And as a professional engineer, I've had to go up and follow these standards, and I've been held to those standards. So I have personal experience with this. And they have specifically noted soils testing and septic systems on items 6A and 6B. So if they can't get it, they're not going to be allowed to be approved. And so that is my reason for supporting approval. I believe that staff has done a diligent job of listening to and repeating the requirements stated by on-site services. If you look at on-site services, their comments were specific, and those requirements were then repeated into the requirements of the department recommendations. So with that, I intend to support this motion.
Thank you. Trevor Edmondson.
Mr. Chair, I intend to support this motion as well, and I just want to reiterate that based on the testimony that we had tonight, which I appreciate, thank you all for coming tonight and providing your comments. But I do feel, based on what I heard for testimony tonight and seeing what the conditions of approval are and what the petitioner has yet to resolve with the various departments and within the municipality, that all of the concerns that we've heard tonight will be addressed through that process. So I intend to approve. I intend to vote in favor of this motion as well.
Thank you. Dan Young.
Thank you. Through the chair, I agree with Mr. Edmondson's comments, and I'd like to add some findings that are specific that actually support his statement. I'm going to start with regarding the topography, which is brought up tonight as using old topography, and that the topography may have changed. We've heard that tonight, and what we found was that item number 6C as topographical information must be submitted. So this topography issue, I find, has been resolved already in the packet by staff. On the on-site requirements are addressed in Title 15, and the issues of a reserve area options came up tonight, and we considered that, as well as the slope and setbacks, and we considered that. And item number 6, I believe it is, or recommendation, excuse me, which is going to be part of this plat, 6B, areas designated for the original and replacement wastewater disposal system sites must be identified and must meet all criteria specified in AMC 15.65, including slope and slope setback requirements for each lot. So that issue, what I find that issue has been addressed. The identification of existing systems, this has already been addressed in the same place. The issue of mudslides and steep topography has come up, and we've also heard of rock falls on the hill. We've talked to and questioned the developer's representative who has walked this property, and he found no evidence of mass wasting or slope failures, and he found no evidence for rock falls. Erosion, sediment erosion came up tonight, and we asked the developer's representative if he was aware of any erosion sites, and he has walked the property and crisscrossed it and found no evidence of that. So these findings should be in the record. We've heard additional comments about septic site selection and not putting the test holes in the right place, and that is addressed in item number 6B. So that we're finding has been addressed adequately, and those are my findings. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Porter.
Yes, through the chair, I would like to add one other finding, that there was also a concern about adequate availability for water, and that is addressed by requirement 6D, which provide documentation for water availability to serve existing and proposed water wells. So the public has brought up these concerns, and these concerns are addressed by the department recommendations. They are not yet addressed. They will be addressed by the process.
Thank you. Kevin Cross.
Thank you. I also plan to approve this, and I want to also stipulate that in accordance with the drainage and the erosion concerns, which are probably my greatest concern in particular, that on item 7A, it states specifically the property owner and utilities shall not raise, lower, or regrade the property in a manner that will alter the drainage patterns from those shown on the approved grading and draining plan without prior approval of the Municipality of Anchorage Building Safety Office. So again, some of those erosion concerns will be concerned and be brought before the Municipality of Anchorage Building Safety Office, and if they deem it unsafe, that'll be resolved in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further findings? Dan Young.
This actually isn't a finding necessarily, but I would like to thank the public for coming out tonight and bringing these issues to our awareness so that we could make sure that they have been resolved or they will be resolved. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Are there any appearance requests? I do have a second. All right. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by AMC 2111-304. The decision of the Board at the scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at this hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances per AMC 21-11-503, or an appeal of the board's final appealable decision per AMC 2130. I do have a report. This is Steve Abel's last meeting. He has served since 2009, and we've enjoyed having him. Dan Young.
Yes, Mr. Abel, I would like to thank you for your service. I know that, and I want everybody to know that's here tonight, is that we serve on this board as a volunteer basis. We're not paid. We put in our own personal time. We review the comments, we review the concerns, and we come here to give fair hearings. And I want to thank Mr. Abel for 6 years of service, so thank you very much.
And Ken Fuller and I myself have served a full term, and I guess we have our name in the hat for a second term. Are there any other reports or board member comments? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Trevor Edmondson moves and Christina Enix seconds. All in favor? Aye. We are standing adjournment.